gentlemen. Yeah, you're watching ECLECTICKA. I'm Michael 7 Michael. We've got CC, the Greek Geek, and we've got Ranger. So you guys get your own kind of like theme music
intros.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I like it.
So we're etching, moving, dancing, shaking, baking should be a song for the new Comic-Con season.
Yes.
All the different cons coming up. We just had an anime con, was it?
Katsucon. That was February, and we had Asia here with us, also known as Sun Z. So that was fun. That was loads of fun. Anime, otaku, I guess I don't want to say otaku because we have Otakon, but they're kind of similar. So yeah, Katsucon and MagFest typically kick off the season because they're very early in the year. And those are actually both DC area cons, but it's not far from New York. And then it's kind of like a lull. There's nothing really going on in March. Right. Nothing going on in April.
Wait a minute. Wasn't there one in Connecticut? Did that pass or is coming up?
There's one in Massachusetts actually called Nauticon. It's this month. I think later this month, the 19th through the 21st.
Right.
So it's Friday through Sunday.
Right. And there have been I take that back.
This one?
Oh yeah. Well, there were some in April. Like there were. I think Philly had one recently. Right. Tidewater just passed recently, which is like in the Virginia Beach area, and they're actually up to like 20,000 in their numbers as well. So there have been some of the lesser known ones, but the big con season mainly starts like April, May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got BlurredCon. Well, within the next we're not even going to touch Comic-Con yet. That's in
that's in
October.
Right, October.
So just for the summer, what's happening this summer?
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, in the D.C. area, we have Awesome Con is coming up, and that's one of the larger conventions. They actually, I think, just got started in like maybe 2003, and they grew really, really quickly. And they are primarily a comic convention, but I think it's multi-fan as well. And this year will be my first time going, so I'm really excited. Stan Lee's gonna be there. They always have big names there. They always have, like George Takei was there one year, William Shatner. And then also BlurredCon is gonna be in June, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah.
How is that?
Now, BlurredCon is at the Hyatt in Crystal City.
Okay.
So AwesomeCon is actually within the city's borders at the Washington Convention Center. But BlurredCon is going to be at the Hyatt in Crystal City, which is outside of Reagan National Airport, which is the closest airport to D.C. So that is going to be June 30th through July 2nd. And AwesomeCon is 2 weeks before that, June, I think, 16th through the 18th. And trying to think of what else is going on. DragonCon in Atlanta, but that's Labor Day weekend, so that's usually like the end of the summer portion. And DragonCon is just huge, multi-fan. I've seemed to frequent more so the multi-fan and the otaku conventions. And then you also have Baltimore's in October, so I can't really count that.
That's a little too.
Yeah,
that's a little too.
But I don't know what's going on in this area.
Well, other than BlurredCon and Nauticon, there's also one in Connecticut, in Hartford, ConnectiCon. So,
cool.
Yeah, so last year, it's in July, and last year they had the comic book guy. I think that's what they call it.
Right.
Comic book guys. They
Right.
have their TV show. There's the guy in the hockey jersey who's always in it. So they do have big names. I think one actor from The Walking Dead was actually there last year. So that's obviously a big thing because Connecticut's pretty boring, to be honest. So it becomes a big deal for like the weekend, like Friday to Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, plus because of your proximity to Boston and New York, it's like people will cop out and go to Boston or New York instead of Hartford or something. So it's kind of like, and then I do want to backtrack because there were quite a few of the smaller cons, like Women in Comics Con just passed, and then Creator Con, which is actually held at a local high school in my area, and that had probably 3,000 people, and it was free. So definitely, if you're on a budget, check out I would say check out the newer cons and the smaller cons, because they tend to be cheaper.
I like more like independent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like even like BlurCon, for example, is like $45, where Dragon Con is like $80, and that's early bird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Con was 75 early,
right.
and 80 late. Yeah.
Right. I mean, granted, they're all. I wouldn't, say, I'm not bashing one or the over the other, because supply and demand.
Because the money goes to good things. So
right.
Like,
and and certain cons, like Dragon Con's one of those cons where you could go to Atlanta during that weekend, just get a day pass and still have a great time, because they have the parade. Like it's very they're very much beyond the convention walls, because it's spread out within 5 hotels and things of that nature. Yeah, it's a big, they literally shut Atlanta down, where New York, everything's within the Javits Center walls. Right. And you don't really, you either are in or you're out. Right. So, but yeah, con season is here, and I'm so excited.
It's like traveling to them.
I know.
Like road trips.
So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, just doing more traveling, because I've really just stayed in the area, but I want to do more. Sorry.
No, I mean move.
Oh, sorry. She's just so magnetic. Forgive us, y'all. I'm a work in progress. But what about you, Seven? I mean, what cons are you a fan of that you've been to? And I know that we're
I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to checking out BlurCon, because I haven't been there yet.
Right. What's the first year? So no one has.
So there you go.
You're not behind.
I like WinterCon. I like the feel. It's small, but yet it still has a feel of like people putting energy into it.
Yeah.
Now,
and of course, is that during Comic-Con? The summer? Is WinterCon
no,
in the winter? Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I've never been to a con in the summer.
Really?
No.
But you know what? In the fall and the winter is the best time if you have like really intense cosplays that require a lot of armor and things like that, or fur. Yeah, like my Princess Mononoke, I love wearing that. I love wearing the San cosplay in February, because if it weren't for that hooded cape, I would die. Where people will do like Yoko Littner for the summertime, or they'll do Sailor Moon, or Final Fantasy characters and things like that for the summertime. Because you gotta. But there are some people, I've seen some Halo, in 97 degrees and taking photos outside. Like, you are really dedicated, sir. Or ma'am.
Hats off to them.
Right. But yes, very, very excited. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, because I worked so hard, but please, in the next few weeks, actually Seven has been very good about this as well. Check out our events calendar in the coming weeks, because all of these cons that we're talking about and more are going to be posted on the website. So while you're catching up on shows of Eclectica, make sure you check those out as well.
Cons, meetups, events.
Yeah, big, small, weird. We don't discriminate. And please, if you have any suggestions, or if you have a con that you organize and you want us to be a part of it and get on your calendar, just Facebook message us, contact us. We want to highlight your events.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
That's
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I brought this up before, and I always wonder: is too much of a good thing too much?
Oh, you mean like the con thing?
Yeah, there's so many cons now that it's and if you're addicted to cons, which I think a lot of us are, you're gonna end up spending a lot of money.
Yeah, you definitely have to be creative. I would say like the best thing to do is, because I went to Baltimore Comic-Con. So you can start small and then kind of like, definitely don't be afraid of going out, meeting new people. I mean,
well, economically, like specifically economically,
Well, I say that
honestly, you can just buy a ticket and just walk around.
Right. Or you can volunteer.
Yeah.
If you volunteer at the convention, they'll usually give you a badge. You do whatever time you do. And then, yeah, exactly. You can work for the con. Or you can do a panel.
You say work on a farm?
Work for the con.
Oh.
Well, you can work on a farm too to pay for the ticket and the travel.
Right. And you could do the panels and stuff. Those are, easy fixes in terms of getting badges. But I say to meet new friends and stuff because that will enable you to travel, with a group. Like, let's chip in on a rental van. Let's chip in on a hotel room. Right. And if you, instead of like begging your friends to come do it and your friends aren't really into it, go out and meet people who are passionate about it. And by and large, generally speaking, the con community is very friendly. They're very sweet, wonderful, nice people who just love doing this. And they will spend all their time, money, and effort into creating these masterpieces or just attending the events. So definitely take advantage of that. And find ways to get involved and tap into your own creativity in the best possible ways you can. And don't be afraid of those up and coming cons, because really that's how you get your foot in the door to be on a first name basis with Awesome Con and New York Comic Con and just be genuine. I would say, if you're genuine in what you love. And you can be specific, like say, for you, 7, you're really into sci-fi. So you could specifically seek out sci-fi related conventions and then branch out from there. Whereas I'm into anime and comics, so I tend to go to comic conventions. I tend to go to the anime and Japanese cultural conventions or the multi-fan conventions, where like my best friend is really into fantasy, so Wizard World would be her place, to be. So definitely start with places like that and then kind of branch out and, and take advantage of the free ones because you really have nothing to lose with those. So, that's kind of what I do.
Where's the one in Stony Brook? Is that Dragon Con? No.
Stony Brook, Georgia?
Stony Brook University has a con.
Oh, no, that's not Dragon Con, because Dragon Con's in downtown
Florida,
Atlanta.
right?
It's at like the Hyatt, the Hilton, the Marriott. It's spread out through a few. Sorry, I can't keep still. But so Atlanta is very unique in that the con is literally dispersed throughout multiple buildings in the downtown area, where most other cons are in one central location. Even the large ones in DC. Primarily because I think the main reason, especially with DC and New York, is because we're just used to dealing with crowds that size. Yeah. So we have convention centers that can fill like massive amounts of people for no reason. But aside,
do you think there are too many cons out there, or no?
I want more, to be honest.
It doesn't seem like there's an overflow because the people are going to them.
I would like to see more smaller cons like here and there,
right?
Than like massive ones like Comic Con or New York Con, and just
it can
ones.
Be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It does feel, for someone that covers the events from that perspective, it does seem like there's a lot.
Yeah.
It does seem like, okay, well, and for good and bad. For good, like the larger cons, there's no competition, so they don't have to treat vendors as well or fans as well. So that is good for them. So competition is good.
Right.
But then the other side of it is, it just seems like it takes away some of the magic. Like there's so many. Because before it was like you had to wait a whole year.
Right.
To get this experience.
Right.
Then it's like you have to wait every 6 months.
Right.
To get an experience. Now it's like every 2 months.
Right. Well, and
I
think it also depends on your location, because someone who lives in like Indiana, obviously isn't going to have the same accessibility and the same frequency of going to cons as somebody in, say,
like LA
or New York. Or even like if you're in Indiana but you're closer to Chicago, versus being like in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
Indiana, then, you know, obviously, and then plus your budget. So, like, even though there's cons happening all the time, there are incidents where before I started doing con organizing, I would only go to a couple a year because it was all I could afford between making my cosplay, coming up with the material. And to be fair, you guys, you don't have to cosplay to go to these events. So that's just my personal decision.
Yeah, because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I don't have the time or motivation.
Right, and I just recently started going to events where I don't do it just because of all the work. Like, it's so much work. You got to get makeup done. You got to hair. You know, if you're really going to go hard for
and the fabric,
right,
and everything.
Right. And even if you are, you know, like purchase costumes, or like, for example, Tyler Scott Hoover, T-Stun and Spidey, he has a lot of Spider-Man cosplays that are made by a company called the RPC Studio, but he's also their ambassador, and he's a b-boy. So it's like, even though he didn't necessarily make that costume, he started out making his own, and then he
sold out.
Well, I think that it was more of like an upgrade, like, oh, he had to wear this hoodie that looks like a Spider-Man costume, like a fake Spider-Man costume, but now he's got this fitted suit that is much better for his moves and stuff like that. So I think it really is.
So he sold out?
No, I don't think so. I think it's important to distinguish yourself between being a seamstress, being a crafter, an armorer, a closet cosplayer, which is what I more so identify with, where I take things, like I've taken things that like, for example, my Chun-Li cosplay was a dress that I had since freshman year of high school. I wore it to my freshman homecoming, and a friend of mine literally helped me like cut it so that it would fit more comfortably when I did my kicks and stuff. And then I just got some fabric, cut it up, and yeah, like you can really make it. It's more about working with what you have.
Right.
Just like with anything else.
Every community has their thing where anything creative, if there's always a shortcut or a way to get around it.
Right, they'll do it.
In a situation like that, is there any backlash for someone that doesn't actually make their cosplay?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, if you don't give credit to those people and you're trying to build a platform without, you know, recognizing the people who help you at the very least, then it is kind of messed up. And you're basically like selling a dream, and you're lying to the public because you're, you know, putting on a show that you made this thing and you didn't. So like I have much more respect for the person who identifies as a cosplayer, but they admit their limitations and they admit what their skills are and what they aren't, or what they might want to improve on. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is you get to see people and their talents manifest in various ways in the community. So the seamstress, her talent manifests in making beautiful gowns, or the armorer will have a whole cosplay that, I mean, has a freaking air conditioning unit in it. It's so elaborate. Or you have people like myself, who's the creative director and a coordinator, so I'll help put events together, and I'll take what I have, like making lemonade out of lemons, you know what I mean? And then like my best friend, who's a crafter, and she made my Princess Mononoke spear in a day with $10 in her pocket. So it's a very beautiful thing to witness, especially when you get down to like the sub communities within it, and they find, you know, people like them who they never knew existed in large numbers. So it really is a great thing, and con depression is real. They and con crud and con depression. So please take your vitamins before, because it's a lot of people and a lot of germs, like any other major event.
Define what those are if people don't know what you're talking about.
So con crud is like any event. If you come in contact with hordes of people, there's a chance that you might get sick. So take the time to make sure that you're healthy and that you're, you know, with people who have good hygiene practices to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And then con depression is pretty much like what happens when after the con is over and you return to normal life and it's not as awesome. You know, it's kind of like PTSD, you know, where they say it's like the moment you realize you'll never be this awesome again. Right. Like, it's like that, but with cons, you know? Like, oh no, like, I'm not Chun-Li anymore. I'm just regular CC, you know? Like.
I mean, you could if you wanted to.
Right. But I can't show up to work and kick in the door, like, but I want to, but I can't. No, I'm just playing my boss. I would never kick in your door. I would never kick in the door. But I want to come dressed as Chun-Li, but she might. Let me do it. But other people can't get away with it, and it's not fair.
Well, if we had cons with no cosplayers, would it be the same for you guys?
No.
I don't even think it would. Yeah.
I need them to like prove that they're into the same thing I am. like it's proof that they actually watch the anime that I'm watching. And then just like strangers just.
It's kind of like would New York be New York without that guy painted completely silver dancing for change? You know what I mean? Like, no, it wouldn't. It's not New York without that. Or Vegas. You know what I mean? Yeah. Would Vegas be Vegas without Elvis impersonators? No. You know what I mean? I mean, it would. You still have the casinos and you still have the buffets, but it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same experience. You know.
It's interesting when you go to a con first thing in the morning and you see everybody walking and then, you know, you just see someone in full costume. And it's just that between the made-up world versus the real world, and then you start wondering how much of the real world is fake and how much of the makeup world is actually kind of real.
It is funny.
And I think about that from the very first con I've been to up until now, I always marvel at that movement. And
it's
of
course, a cross of parallel universes almost, right?
Yeah, because I mean, who's to say we all shouldn't dress up? But then if we all dress up, then dressing quote unquote normal would be interesting.
Right. What is normal?
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So my biggest thing for all the cons is really the people.
Yeah.
I find that the most fascinating.
So
the artists and why dedicate your whole life, you know, or a certain portion of your life to be creative.
Right.
And then watching these group of people support that creative. And of course now I see a sea of people that don't care about any of that at all.
Right.
With all the cons.
Right.
Because even the smaller cons are winning.
Right.
Because of that hype.
Right.
Do you guys see the same?
I mean, it's definitely a level of curiosity that we haven't seen. And I think it's primarily because our generation, which is very, it's like a rebirth, because you had people in our parents' generation where you had comic enthusiasts, but they were fewer and far between, and then they birthed people who ultimately became comic or sci-fi or gaming fans. So, and then gaming became a thing, right? Because they didn't even have, like, other than Atari and things like that, and our grandparents didn't have that at all. You know what I mean? So it's like it's evolved and we're reproducing. You know, we're having
technology these days, and more into it.
Yeah.
More things are available.
And you can read up on it. You can just Wikipedia, you know, any Marvel character and read up on it.
You become like a sci-fi geek or like an expert in like a day.
And even with cosplay now, you got Pinterest, you got Tumblr.
Absolutely.
You know, you have all these different tools. You have YouTube, all these different tools to like help you get more involved in whichever way you want to. And that's kind of the difference. And then with us, you know, we grew up watching the TV shows, and now as our generation has grown up, we've been able to witness seeing these blockbusters come. Some of them are remakes like Batman, you know, the classic remakes, but now more, you know, things that we never thought. Like, I never thought I would see Black Panther on the silver screen in my lifetime.
Like, nobody knew who Doctor Strange was until the movie.
And then it just came out and just
made it was a hit.
Yeah.
It was like, it's great.
It was like a hit was an understatement.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just the timing is right. And it's kind of like a beautiful thing to witness. It does kind of suck to see people who are disingenuine try to, you know, take advantage, but I think that's going to happen with anything. I saw it happen in Greek life. I mean, when Stomp the Yard came out, and then it's like, oh, all these organizations popping up out of nowhere, you know what I mean? And then, you know, or people will, or there's like more scrutiny of these organizations now because they're under a much larger microscope. And even with HBCUs saw the same thing happen, and now the culture has changed as a result. So yeah, it's kind of it's like you got to take the good with the bad, but honor your base and be true to them and be loyal to them. And I think in particular with our community, we have the knowledge and the power and the resources that will allow us to retain, what we feel is ours.
Right.
And it's just important to decipher the people who are truly interested and just want to learn as much as possible versus people who don't care. Because you don't have to know everything to be genuine.
Right.
And I think that's where people
as long as that's passion
get misconstrued.
Yeah,
and people get misconstrued and they'll like try to give you litmus tests and to see if you're really about it and stuff.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Asking you random questions from like first season episode 13 or something like
that.
It's like
right, and it's like just the fact that you ask questions about whatever show or series you're interested in. I have so much more respect for somebody like that than someone who pretends they know everything or pretends like you have to know everything. Right. And, you never knew. You didn't know all this stuff at one point, So, very interesting. But what are you I'm like funny. Wondering what you're, because you got this look on your face, and I'm wondering what's making you tick right now.
No, it's just interesting, just to see where it's going, because the hype can't last forever.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what happens when the air starts coming out of the balloon. Who really is going to like this stuff just because they like it?
Stay in power, yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I think a different piece to it is that you have so many cons and so many different specific genres as well. Right. So it'll be interesting to see like how much the multi-fan conventions can hold out versus the very specific ones. Like, is Wizard World going to have the same staying power as Awesome Con or, Dragon Con? So it will definitely be interesting to see. And I guess we haven't really seen, like, we've seen the rise of cons, but we haven't really seen the fall.
The fall, yeah.
Or maybe we did and we just didn't notice.
Well, a lot of the ones that...
Yeah.
On the back end, you have a couple cons that are pretty much run by the same people, which I find fascinating. So I guess they did kind of fall, but really they just changed it around management-wise and kept going.
Right.
But, they'll always be there because there'll always be sponsors that need to put money somewhere.
Right. And because of that, too, and because con culture has become so popular, the face of cons has changed a bit, right? Like look at Complex Con. Like that's so unlike any fandom con, and yet so much of the con format is embedded in it, and that eclectic community is tailored to. Even though it's more like urban, that, eccentric, like eclectic subculture is almost like Afropunk is in the same aspect. So it's very interesting to see how there's a lot of overlap between urban culture and pop culture and geek culture. And I think that people are trying to figure out how to balance all those different aspects of their lives, because I feel like so many geeks so many of us have so many different sides to us that we don't always get to fully enjoy, especially simultaneously, and that's kind of like what things like BlurCon and Dragon Con seek to highlight, is that we're not just people who sit behind computers all day and watch Star Trek, even though you can do that if you want to, but the geek is a many splendid thing.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Cece.
Always.
Thank you, Ranger.
Yay.
I'm Seven. You're watching ECLECTICKA. Check us out on sevnetwork.com. If you've seen us on YouTube, check out the website. If you're checking us out on the website, then check us out on cable. All the information is on there, reaching over 600,000 homes now. So that's pretty awesome. Awesome, and you're watching Eclectica. Thank you very much. Have an awesome Eclectic day.
Yay!